Hey guys, how's it going? Josh Spoon, Producer's Kitchen. In this video, we're going to look at hijacking the velocity of a note. We're going to be using a couple of new objects, and I'm going to show you what those are, and we're going to walk through it right now. This technique was used to make the Max for Live device that I have available called Velocity Raptor. It gives you 4 different types of velocities to choose from to dynamically switch back and forth. This is something that kind of came to mind after I learned a little bit of Max for Live, and remembering back to the days when I didn't have a MIDI keyboard. All I had was the keyboard on my computer, and if you know, C and V will change the velocity, but only by sets of 10, and you can't dynamically do it. So I was often fiddling around trying to change the velocity or using the Velocity MIDI plugin, but using this type of hijacking is really cool because you could set a certain velocity and then be able to toggle to any of the 4 that you have set. In this video, we're just going to be using 2. We're going to toggle from one velocity or another. And we can, since we're using Max for Live objects that work in live, we are able to automate them and interact with them just as we would any other device, whether it's the rate on our arpeggiator or something on analog, any dial, knob, slider, it'll act just the same, and we could do that in Max for Live. So let's get started. First things first, I'm the realist, and I have a little ditty that I figured out. I have an instrument here with a little ditty that you may know. It's the song that started all the chaos. All right, so I'm going to grab a Max MIDI effect, and we're going to take this and hijack the velocity to be able to change it dynamically. So I'm going to hit the edit button here. I'm going to open this up a little bit. Close the browser. Cool. All right, so I'm going to get rid of all these guys for now. We're not going to use the MIDI in. We're going to use a new device. So here's a couple of things that we're going to be using. And we'll just do it node in, and then node out. And then we're also going to be doing select, which says outputs a bang based on input matching. Short of that is cell. There's a lot of objects that have shortcuts. And then T, trigger. So it says sends output to many places. And we'll talk about that. We'll just put T for right now. Next thing we're going to need is switch. And this allows us to switch based off of the inputs that are here. After that, we're going to go to live. So live is a user interface that works just like I was saying, works just like any other live object. If you use any of the Max objects for live purposes, you don't get automation, and there's a couple other things. But if you want to have any sort of normal interaction that you usually do with any other live object, type live dot, and it gives you quite a few UIs to mess with. So we're going to be using number box, and we're also going to be using live dot, what is that, tab, yes. I've got tab, number box, and lastly, if we have time, the random object. I'm going to randomize some velocity here. Oh, and let's not forget plus. So add 2 numbers, and we'll talk about that in a second. Random last. So these are the new objects that we're going to use. And don't be afraid, fairly simple. I know it's a lot, but I'll move these guys over here. And I'm going to move node in, node out over. And if we look at node in, node out, it's really very similar to MIDI in, MIDI out, but it's been simplified. So we have the pitch, we have velocity, we have MIDI channel. MIDI channel we're not messing with, pitch we're not messing with. Velocity we're going to mess with, but I'm going to push that through for now. And what we're going to do is just make a message, and let's just look at the velocity here. So what I'm going to do first to make sure everything works okay, Sometimes Max inside of Max for Live doesn't really understand that you updated. I don't know exactly, but sometimes you need to like save it, or actually save the patch for the first time. Sometimes you need to actually just close the patch completely and let it just run in live. But I cautiously just like to make sure that everything's going to be working when I go to actually try stuff, because you'll sometimes try certain things and they don't work and you think you did something wrong, and it's just Max hasn't realized that you've changed something. All right, cool. So now I'm going to move this down so we can get to the play. So you can see there's 0 and there's 100. So the 0 is the note off. That's what's telling the synth to stop playing. The 100 is the note on, telling the synth to start playing. Cool. So now that we know that, we can start hijacking. So I'm going to go to select. And since we know that 0 is always the note off, we can do cell, and here is the number that's going to be tested, and here is where you can actually put in the number that you want it to be tested against. So you can dynamically put that in, but we know that we're always going to be testing 0 or against 0. So we're saying here, hey, check this number and see if it's 0. If it is 0, bang out here. If it isn't 0, bang out here. So I'm going to do message again. So if selection is 0, what I wanted to do is bang out the message that's going to be inside here, and I'm just going to put a message of 0 because that's what we want. I'll duplicate this, and then here I'm going to say bang out this message, which let's just say is going to be 72. And let's do another message, and then I'll tie both of these to display that message, and let's start it up again. As you can see now, it's doing 0 and 72 instead of 0 and 100. So this is unhijacked, this is hijacked. Okay, now that we know that, we have the ability to do a ton of different things. Once you know how to grab the velocity and alter it, you can do things like use a slider, use a dial, use a step sequencer to change it based on every eighth note. It's the great thing about Max for Live and about programming in general is once you understand basic concepts, you can take those basic concepts and apply them and expound upon them. Okay, so I'll move these guys up. And let's just apply that. Let's just make sure it works. So I'm going to take this original one out, and I'm going to throw this in. Let me change this to 16. Let's see if it works. Cool. So we have a nice working hijacked velocity. So we're going to start using all these other guys to build something a little bit cooler. So we've got these numbers here, and what we're going to do now is I'm going to take this guy, the tab, and I'm going to go to the inspector, and I can scroll down. And what I want to do is just kind of set this up. Eventually we're going to use this as a UI element. So I want to name this so when I automate it, I know what I'm looking at, so I don't see live.tab. I don't know what that is. Let's say if I had 4 of these, I would have live.tab 1, 2, 3, 0, and you don't know what that is, so it's best to name everything. So I'm going to name this, let's do velocity chooser. I'm going to copy that and use the same for the short because this name isn't that long anyway. And then I'm going to rename this. So in the one that I built, Velocity Raptor, I named them Raptor 1 and Raptor 2. Cool. So now you see this change to Raptor 1 and Raptor 2. You also can come in here and change the font, the colors, all sorts of things. You can get in there and start messing around. But we ain't got no time for that. So Raptor 1 and Raptor 2 are set. If we look at Raptor 1 or the tab, we see that we could send a message into this to switch it. Maybe when it loads, it automatically switches to a number. Then we also have three outputs. We have the index of the tab, we have the symbol or the name, so it would spit out Raptor 1 or 2, and then we have a raw value, which I rarely use. So let's hook this up to a message and let's see. So 0 and 1. It's 0 index base, which a lot of computers do. Actually, that's what computers do. They start at 0, they don't start at 1 like we do as humans. But once we become cyborgs, we'll start at 0. All right, so ditch that, go to the second one, put that in, Raptor 1, Raptor 2. So you can grab this, you could send text, you could send the index. Cool. So I'm just holding, I'll put this back, I'm holding Option and drag, because if you don't hold Option, you're going to have to click on it and then throw it away. Cool, so we've got Raptor 1 and 2, and what we're going to need to do is be able to switch between Raptor 1 and 2 and the value of Raptor 1 and 2. So that's where this guy comes in handy. The trigger, the switch, the plus. I'm going to throw this up here. And so we have Raptor 1 and 2, so we need two values. And I'm going to command click and just choose some numbers right now. So we have two numbers, and what we're going to do is we need to only send one number out to this note. So if we don't have a way of switching back and forth, we're going to be sending up two numbers. And this guy right here is telling us which one's being selected. It's going to say either 1 or 0. But if we look at this switch allows us to switch. We can set a number, so if I wanted to do 16 things to switch between, I could type in 16, but by default, it does 2. So we have right here, it says, switch 0 turns off, non-zero, select input. So we have these two that are going to go into this input 1 and this input 2, and then we have to base it off of a number that's going to switch it. That's going to be given from this tab here. And if you remember, this goes 0, 1, but this is looking for 1 and up. So what we need to do, this plus right here allows us, as usual with a right, to dynamically throw in a number, but we always just want to add 1. So I'm just going to say, hey, add 1 to whatever comes in from above. It doesn't know what's above it, it's just getting information. So let's do a message over here. So now we're doing 1, 2 instead of 0, 1. So see, it's the original. This is the, once again, kind of hijacked number. Cool, so we've added 1 to that, and we're going to throw it into this trigger because what we want to do is every time that this is clicked, we want to send out the notification of this new value, or a possible new value. These number boxes kind of send out a bang and a value every time I turn them. But if I'm just toggling, it's not going to send that value out. So I may have changed the value beforehand, and then if I toggle and it doesn't bang out the new number, it'll still send the old value of this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, okay, I need to trigger something. What I want to trigger is I want to trigger a bang, but first I want to trigger an integer. So B for bang, I for integer, F for float, S for symbol. Max works in a right to left format. So usually we read, at least in the Western world, we read left to right. and that's where we always start, 0, 1, 2, 3. But max goes right to left. So this sets up the order of how information is going to be sent. So for example, really quick, I'll show you. I'll make a bang. And then I'm going to say new trigger. And then I'm going to do bang, bang, bang. I'll connect that. I'm going to make a message. Make 3 messages. And this one's going to say love. This one's going to say marriage. This one's going to say baby carriage. I hope that's right because it's going online forever. All right, so what I'm going to do is, this message is already here, so I'm going to send by putting it in the first inlet. And then I'm going to do, what is that? Do print. And then pop out. Oh. And then 1. If you can't ever remember something, but you remember where it's located, like an example, you can go like this one, message, unlock, and I could have just copy pasted that. But I remembered it. All right. Love, marriage, baby carriage. All right, so I'm gonna hold down Command so that I can actually interact with this, because if not, I'll just be clicking on it. Command, boom, baby carriage. So that's the last thing that was sent through in the bang. But if we open up the Max console, you'll see love, marriage, baby carriage. And that's the order, right to left. Cool. Now that we have a basic understanding of trigger, the first thing we're going to do is now send out this integer, which is the first thing. See, it says output order int. And it also says 1. This other one says, hey, there we go, 2. See, if you ever get confused, numbers. All right, so I'm going to put this into the switch. So this is what's going to switch between 1 and 2. Let's scoot these guys over. And this first one is going to be the value that is set here. You can change these. You see it says int or float. You can also change this. It says 0 to 127, which is the range of the velocity. But if you wanted to change it from 0 to 1 or whatever number, you could do that as well. So I'm going to put this one into input 1 and this one into input 2. And then we're going to take this bang and send it here. So they're both going to bang at the same time. So it's going to switch and say, hey, open up 1 or 2, and then it's going to send that number through. Cool. So now if we try it, we'll put a message down here. And we see that it's spitting out floats. So it's got the .8. What we can do is inspector. Go down here, unit style, int, type, change that to int. See that one? I do the same thing with the second. Scroll down and type int. Save. You see there's this lines, that's letting you know that it hasn't been updated, and what you change it to will not be reflected in live. So save that guy. The lines go away. Now we have the 2 numbers. Oh, what happened here? Int, flip. There we go. Cool. Bam. Integers. So we're now pumping out integers between 0 and 127. We also have everything set up to be able to select the note on and then pass through the same note off of 0. So we can just take this, and this could have, what we built here could have, like I said, been anything. It could have been a step sequencer or a dial or anything like that. We're going to take that, I'm going to put it right here. So let's see, 57, 77. Cool, now let's try it. Let's save it. And let's see if it works. Ah, it got quieter, it's working. Cool. Now, what we need to do is set this up to actually be a Maxwell Live device that we can use in live. If I save this and I close this window, ugh, ugly, horrendous, unusable. We can't even get to the things we want to get to. So I'm going to go back to edit. What I'm going to do is set this up for presentation mode. If I hit presentation mode right now, it's nothing. But what we're going to do is we're going to tell Live or Max what things we want to put in the presentation mode. So I'm going to shift click these three guys, and I'm going to right click on just one of them. I'm going to say add to presentation. And so now when I hit presentation mode, these guys will be available and good to go. But we're not done yet. So what we want to do is name these, make sure they're named, which I think we've already done ahead of time, being good developers. This one is not, so we will do, I keep doing Prapper the Raptor. So Raptor val 1. Let's do, yeah, for velocity. Cool. Oh, that's Raptor 2. 2. 2. Cool. And then this one, 1. Save. So that's set up. And that's good to go. We've got that set up correctly. And what we need to do to make sure everything's good, do presentation mode, but we also need to tell the actual whole patch to be in, where are we? So many boxes, open in presentation. Cool. So the whole patch is in open in presentation, and then these have been set to open in presentation mode. So now when I close this guy, I get, so this is the height of the usual Ableton device, and we have Raptor 1, Raptor 2, and we have the value of Raptor 1, Raptor 2. So I can do C comment, and then I can just say like the name of it, so the Raptor, and then I can do Command J to shorten this up in case I wanted to maybe center it, which I want to do. Right click, already add to presentation, cool. And now I can do freeze, which isn't super important right now, but if you have other elements outside, it'll bring it in and freeze it, bring everything in there, freeze everything into place, and then lock it. Now I can't edit it except for the things that are added to presentation and our UI objects. So now save, close, there we go. Raptor 1 and 2, the values, the title. So let's say I want to make the device width bigger. What I'll do is I just make sure the freeze is off, and I'll go to View, Set Device Width. So it's this really long dead space. Lock, freeze, save, close. Then I have this gigantic guy right here. But we'll go back, open that up, and I'm just going to do clear device width and let it use whatever is the default. Save, close, and there we go. Cool, so now we have the Raptor 1, Raptor 2. I'm going to put this really low, put this up all the way. go in, automate this guy. So it's called Test Raptor right now. And then I have the 1 or 2 velocity, and I have the chooser. So if you want to change the order of these devices to where maybe velocity chooser is first, and this also works for push if you want to set up your push to have a certain order of UI objects. I'm going to right click, go to parameters, and I go here. So I want velocity chooser to be 0, I want velocity 1 to be 1, and velocity 2 to be 2. Save, close. Go back in, we'll see choosers 1, velocity 1, velocity 2. Awesome. Lastly, we'll do this real quick. I know we've been going for a bit here. Let's throw in some random. So I'm going to throw this guy in. I'll make another random. Throw that guy in. You can also set a range as well. So I could say, see it says range. So I'll say 0. Actually, I'll do 30 to 127. Toss that. 30 to 127 into this guy here. And then I'm going to do L live dot button here, and this will cause a random output. Let's do a message, see how that comes through. So I've done that wrong. Let's look. If you do something wrong, you can check. Let's say random of 40. Can I set range seed? That's so the second one would be initial value. So this is what I'm going to do. We're going to learn another guy here real quick. I'm going to do new. And we're going to talk about this in another video anyway. So scale. So I'm going to do 0 to 127, and then we're going to take that and turn it into 30 to 127. So just scaling. This is the original range, which is going to be going to the velocity, and velocity does 0 to 127, and we're going to take that random number and do 30 to 127, so we won't have end up something we can't even hear. So I'll throw this guy in here. Usually that's the thing to be scaled, as we've seen. Everything the leftmost is what you're going to be testing against. This is where we could set the actual values that I've statically put in here. And so let's check this out. Let's see. Cool. So we'll just ditch this one, throw it in here, and then we're actually going to get rid of that, and we'll copy this, put it over here, throw it on that one. So now we have 2 randoms. Get rid of that. Grab this guy, grab this guy, add to presentation. So we're going to save this presentation. Let's move these 2 guys down. They're so tiny. Let me zoom in so I can get to them. There we go. Cool. So let's do a random over here and a random over here. Great UI. Looks amazing. But we're just learning right here. We're not really going deep into making things look good. There we go. Random. random. Okay, cool. Now that everything's saved, we can use our trusty old note info to make sure everything's coming out right. You can hear the difference, but we can look right here. Note velocity. 33, 96. Everything's working perfectly, and it's good to go. Cool, so we made a device that will hijack the velocity and put in a either specific velocity or random velocity based off of a switcher of two numbers. And you can expound upon this. You can pull, once you've done this, you can pull this code out, all the stuff up here, put something else in there if you want. You now know how to hijack a velocity. Hope this is very useful to you. It puts you on a path of understanding some basic concepts inside of Max and also Max for Live. And it's giving you, it's starting to turn some wheels in your head of some possibilities of things that maybe you would like to have in Live, or things that you would like to just change and have uniquely for you. So I hope this has been very helpful. I'm Josh Spoon, Producer's Kitchen, Velocity Raptor. Download it. There'll be a link in the description below, or I'll have it up in the cards. Talk to you later, and don't forget, always be creating.